Welcome back to part 3 of The Problematic Prince. Now, without further ado, let's continue with the story. Gradually, Erna started to feel more comfortable. But when she looked into the prince's eyes, she suddenly realized she was talking to the prince himself. Surprised, she moved away from Bjorn and quickly said sorry for her earlier rudeness. Prince Bjorn, seeing that Erna was shocked, understood her situation. He also noticed that although she seemed uncomfortable in a big crowd, she had chosen to wear a revealing dress to the ball. Then Lady Myers came up to the prince, apologizing sincerely with a graceful smile. She told him that Erna Hardy was nervous, which caused her earlier mistake. But Prince Bjorn, who was usually quiet and to the point, started to figure things out. He realized Lady Myers had something to do with it all. Erna then understood she had been set up by the most famous matchmaker in Lechen, Lady Myers herself. After this, people at the ball couldn't stop talking about Erna and Lady Myers. They were amazed at how Lady Myers used the Archduke to showcase Erna from Mid-Hardy. It made them wonder if this was Lady Myers' plan all along. But they still had questions about how she knew the prince would arrive late and how else to explain what happened. The surprise left everyone stunned, realizing that Miss Erna wasn't the simple country girl they thought she was. Her actions showed unexpected cleverness. Erna took a break on the couch, hearing Lady Myers approaching. Lady Myers asked how Erna was feeling and invited her to dance at the ball, her debutante ball. Erna, clearly angry, firmly refused, visibly irritated. Lady Myers smiled at Erna's spirited response, impressed. She gently lifted Erna's chin and explained that she respected her choice not to dance. But she advised Erna to carry herself with dignity for the rest of the evening. Lady Myers understood that Erna had been brought up as a Varden and trusted her to uphold the family's good name. Erna thought about Lady Myers' words and was glad to know she held the House of Varden in high esteem. So she agreed to stay a bit longer, even though she wanted to leave. She recognized her duty as the Lady of House Varden. While taking a break, Erna spotted the famous twin princes, Prince Bjorn and Prince Leonid. Despite their nearly identical appearance, she knew they emitted different vibes. Crowned Prince Leonid seemed rigid and precise, while Prince Bjorn seemed relaxed, as if he were just casually wandering around the party. Erna remembered encountering Prince Bjorn at the train station and in front of the hotel, affectionately calling him the poison mushroom. When Prince Bjorn caught Erna's eye, she felt uneasy realizing he had noticed her. The twins noticed Erna's nervousness. Leonid asked about her, wondering if she was the one causing a stir. He also questioned if there was any connection between them. Bjorn reassured his brother that he could make things happen if he wanted to, making Leonid visibly uncomfortable. In his laid-back style, Bjorn suggested his brother ask Erna for a dance, thinking she wouldn't refuse the crown prince. Curious, Leonid asked why he should do that. Bjorn pointed out that his brother seemed interested in Erna, but Leonid quickly dismissed the idea, saying it was nonsense. He clarified that he was only concerned about the woman he liked getting involved with his older brother. Despite denying any romantic interest in Erna, Leonid kept asking about her, just in case. Bjorn observed Erna, thinking about the situation. If he hadn't heard about the Hardy family and Lady Myers' matchmaking, he might have been fooled. He was curious to see if Erna could handle herself, despite her obvious nervousness. Bjorn thought Erna had already grabbed everyone's attention with her bold outfit. Now he believed it was time for her to play the delicate lady role. He wasn't sure who might fall for this act, but he wasn't worried about any potential challenges they might face. Meanwhile, in another setting, Bjorn's father, King Philip, contemplated marrying off his son, Bjorn. The king and queen sat in their garden, enjoying tea and discussing their son. King Philip expressed his growing belief that marrying Bjorn was the right move. The queen was skeptical, doubting whether Bjorn would willingly agree to marriage. She asked if there was any woman he was interested in, and Bjorn cryptically mentioned something about one divorce being enough. The queen felt uneasy hearing her son's response, and the king, who overheard, remained silent. The king, with a frown, acknowledged that he understood the challenges Bjorn faced and the tough decisions he had to make. He couldn't shake off the memory of Bjorn's words about stepping down as crown prince and divorcing. He remembered the sadness in his son's eyes and how determined he was not to change his mind equals. Feeling heavy-hearted, the king thought deeply about the situation. After much consideration, he couldn't find a better solution. Turning to his wife, he asked if she thought it would be acceptable if Bjorn chose his own marriage, rather than it being arranged by them. The queen replied that the problem was Bjorn wouldn't desire another marriage. In response, the king said they needed to make Bjorn want it. He then asked if the queen was sure there was nothing between Bjorn and the young lady, Erna, from earlier. The queen knew that their son, Leonid, had mentioned not sensing any connection. She realized the king might be open to approving of the hardy girl. The king clarified that it wasn't exactly approval, but if Miss Erna could win Bjorn's affection, he would accept her, provided she proved to be better than Gladys. The queen reassured her husband, telling him not to worry. She knew their son well and was certain he would never reconcile with Gladys. Meanwhile, after the party ended, Bjorn was back at his residence when a person with beautiful blonde hair and dressed in blue arrived unexpectedly. Bjorn was surprised by this visitor, while the head maid nervously apologized, explaining they couldn't stop her from coming. However, Bjorn already understood the situation. He then instructed the maids to bring him a strong drink. Bjorn entered the sitting room and found his ex-wife, Gladys, there. Gladys, with her lovely golden hair and the same baby blue eyes as Erna's, called out to him with a sad expression. He steps into the room and decides to join her for tea, sitting down to meet his ex-wife for the first time in a while. Gladys asks Bjorn how he's been, noting it's been quite some time, but Bjorn, as usual, remains silent. She trembles with sadness and apologizes to Bjorn for showing up unexpectedly. She thought it might be better for them to meet openly, but Bjorn continues to listen without saying a word. As tears start to stream down her face, Gladys can't help but cry, her tears pooling in her hands. Still, Bjorn remains indifferent, showing no reaction. In her emotional state, Gladys continues to apologize for all the trouble she caused. Bjorn finally responds, acknowledging that the loose ends of their relationship have been tied up. He notes that she got what she needed from him, and he got what he needed from her. With a smile, he asks if that's the case, and he's about to take a sip of his tea. He adds that it's nice to see she hasn't changed a bit, and he can always count on her to bore him with the same old antics. Bjorn wondered what Gladys truly wanted, suspecting she didn't come all the way to Lechen just to say sorry. He speculated if it was a directive from the King of Lars. Continuing, Bjorn suggested maybe he sent her to Lechen to reconcile with her ex-husband now that their problems were sorted out. Bjorn remarked on Gladys' obedience to her father, noting she hadn't changed. Listening, Gladys felt tense, clutching her clothes. She explained she didn't just come to apologize. She gathered the courage because she has been carrying a sense of sorrow all this time. Interrupting, Bjorn told her she must have misunderstood something, emphasizing that their deal was fair and actually favored their side more. Gladys is offended by his words to the point where Bjorn just laughs at her. He sarcastically comments on her apparent concern for him, joking that he's almost touched and might cry. Bjorn's expression suddenly changes as he forcefully pushes the teacup onto the table, causing it to shatter right in front of her. One of the maids hears the noise and rushes to the room, concerned about what happened. Bjorn quickly orders the maid to clean up the mess. As he leaves the room, we see Gladys crying over the broken teacup, deeply affected by the tense encounter. 3 days after the ball, we find ourselves at Erna's place. Lisa asks Erna how she's feeling, and she responds that she's all right and feeling better. Lisa sighs, expressing her concern for Erna. She mentions that Erna had been stuck in bed for 3 days straight after the ball. She reflects on how Erna shouldn't be paying attention to that awful prince, but no matter how many times she tells her, Erna won't listen. Then, Lisa tells Erna to wait for a moment and returns with a bunch of tabloids, placing them in front of her, which surprises Erna. Erna asks what all these tabloids are for, and Lisa responds that it's her gift to Erna piles of newspapers and tabloids. Lisa tells Erna that by reading all of this, she can learn all about high society. Erna, a bit skeptical, asks if she can really study up on high society just by reading tabloids and newspapers. Lisa affirms that it's true, explaining that there's no better way to learn about society's elite than by reading various news in the tabloids and newspapers. While Erna reads through the materials, she notices that one of the newspapers has been cut or is missing an article. Lisa is surprised by this discovery and realizes that it's something the other maids have done, cutting out the section featuring the handsome prince. Lisa suggests that Erna should start her study while she takes care of organizing the mountain of letters and bouquets that have arrived for her while she's been in bed. As Erna reads through the newspapers, she comes across an article about Prince Bjorn's divorce from Princess Gladys. The article mentions that the crown prince hasn't visited his child since the divorce, and sadly, their child passed away due to illness without ever seeing his father. It further notes that Prince Bjorn didn't attend his son's funeral and is known for his cold demeanor, even among his closest acquaintances. Following the scandal, Prince Bjorn relinquishes his title as crown prince to Prince Leonid. However, in reality, he was dethroned, and this incident solidifies his reputation as the royal poisonous mushroom. After reading the article, Erna becomes furious, expressing her anger at Bjorn for being such an awful father. Meanwhile, Bjorn and his friends are having a drink. One of his friends raises a toast, suggesting that at this moment, Count Lehman appears to be the most likely candidate to become the future husband of the hardy girl. Bjorn hears this, but doesn't seem to care much as they continue playing cards. Another friend asks about Count Lehman and is surprised that the old man is still alive. They also discuss how Viscount Hardy has been meeting with Count Lehman frequently. This annoys Bjorn, reflecting on how it seems like no matter where he goes, the name Hardy is always in the air. He's grown tired of hearing that name. As they talk about Erna, they express that no one really cares who she marries as long as the man is willing to pay a high enough price. They mention that this is the norm with these sorts of arranged marriages. They even jest that if the count dies quickly enough, they might be able to sell the girl a second time, making it quite an attractive offer for them. Thinking back on it, they talk about how it's sad that Miss Hardy is going to marry an older man without ever having the chance to date a nice, unmarried guy. One friend notices that Erna bears a strange resemblance to Princess Gladys, even though their features are different, but they both emit a similar vibe. The others agree, but the prince stays quiet, secretly thinking his friends are being foolish. They see it as reasonable that Erna and Princess Gladys possess a similar delicate yet captivating beauty. The prince privately reflects on two of his friends, believing they won't understand the consequences of their actions until they experience them firsthand. One friend suggests doing something nice for Erna, proposing they introduce her to the pleasure of being courted by a decent young man before she ties the knot. They think it could create a lovely memory for everyone, and they even want to bet on who can charm Miss Hardy. They see it as a way to show kindness to the unfortunate girl. This idea angers the prince and me too. Erna finds herself captivated by a lily-of-the-valley flower, marveling at its beauty. This particular blossom holds a special place in her heart as her favorite. Once, she painstakingly crafted these by hand, and now that she has so many of them, she ponders what to do with them. Back when she resided at House Varden, she used to sell these creations and wonders if she could do the same here. Perhaps it could aid in saving the house. She mulls over how to find a way to make it happen. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and Lisa asks if she can enter, to which Erna agrees. Lisa steps in, bearing a large gift, a new dress for Erna. Anxiously, Erna inquires why she's being gifted a new dress. Lisa responds by questioning if Erna wasn't informed, mentioning that she and Lady Myers are attending the opening of the art exhibition today. Erna is taken aback by her lack of knowledge about it. Lisa elaborates that it's a prestigious exhibition held by the Royal Art Academy annually and asks about the new dress, emphasizing its modesty. Erna reflects on the Royal Art Academy and realizes it's where her childhood friend, Pavel, resides. She hopes for a chance encounter with him there. Upon arriving at the Royal Art Academy, Erna finds herself amidst a throng of people. Surprisingly, she doesn't feel as intimidated as before, perhaps due to the prospect of seeing Pavel. Lady Myers expresses her wish to Erna that she performs well today, assuming she lacks any moral defect that might lead her to relish public embarrassment. Erna assures her that she will do her utmost. Later, an incident occurs that displeases Lady Myers, causing Erna to tremble with fear. Lady Myers tells her she's beyond redemption, to which Erna responds with an apology. Beside Lady Myers, there's a persistent reprimand directed at Erna, emphasizing that the issue not only affects her, but also impacts Lady Myers' reputation. Despite this, Erna remains contrite. Lady Myers asks Erna how she plans to stop being pathetic, to which Erna replies that she's not deliberately behaving that way. Lady Myers instructs her to compose herself quickly so they can return indoors. Erna had hoped to endure the day, but when she found herself amidst the gazes of numerous onlookers, she felt suffocated once more. Earlier, she had been reluctant to return inside, but she acknowledges she shouldn't let such things shake her. Later, she spots a man with fiery red hair and attire, possessing a sturdy build. She wonders if it might be her childhood friend, Pavel. Erna calls out to him, but it seems he doesn't hear her. Determined, she decides to pursue him to catch his attention. Outside, Prince Bjorn can be seen resting on a bench. Prince Bjorn hears a voice calling out and observes Erna running. Upon closer inspection, he recognizes her as Erna Hardy. Exhausted after losing sight of him and failing to confirm if it was indeed her childhood friend, Erna sits down, feeling despondent after making the journey solely in hopes of seeing him again. Unaware of Prince Bjorn's presence right in front of her, Erna blushes when she finally realizes it's truly him. Erna swiftly retreats to avoid being spotted by the prince. From a distance, the prince observes her, catching snippets of her mentioning the name Pavel and speculating if she's planning a clandestine meeting in the garden. He finds the idea intriguing, contemplating whether it's a covert rendezvous in some secluded corner, finding it rather impressive. He notices her dropped handkerchief and smiles, impressed by the old-fashioned tactic. Later, Erna finds herself at the art exhibit, standing motionless and berating herself for once again appearing foolish in front of the prince. Suddenly, murmurs spread through the crowd about a certain individual, and there she stands, a breathtaking lady who rivals the beauty of Princess Gladys. Clad in a magnificent dark blue and golden gown that enhances her allure, she exudes grace and sophistication. This captivates Erna, who is spellbound by the lady's sheer beauty. Erna reflects on Princess Gladys, admiring her elegance and grace in person compared to the images she had seen in media. She wonders if Princess Gladys holds resentment toward her ex-husband for his past actions. Erna imagines a scenario where, had it not been for those tragic events, Gladys could have been a remarkable queen, akin to the current one. These thoughts leave Erna perplexed, struggling to comprehend why Prince Bjorn would harm such a beautiful woman and strip her of her crown princess title due to his infidelity. Suddenly, Prince Bjorn appears at the art exhibit, causing whispers to spread among the attendees. Princess Gladys notices him, but Bjorn's reaction is cold and somewhat irritated upon seeing her. Prince Bjorn reminisces about his earlier conversation with Gladys at the mansion, where he believed she had come to terms with their situation. However, he realizes he may have underestimated her resolve. It dawns on him that Gladys genuinely intends to reclaim her position. With a sly grin, Prince Bjorn finds the notion of Gladys's request absurd. He's unwilling to take any action that would result in a loss for himself, especially when it involves Gladys. Reflecting on recent conversations with his friends, Prince Bjorn recalls discussions revolving around a bet concerning Erna. One friend proposed that the bet commence on the opening day of the Royal Art Exhibition, an event they all planned to attend. They deemed it a fair starting point, with the bet concluding on the day of the rowing competition coinciding with the summer festival, the pinnacle event for Lechen's elite. Further deliberations on the bet led to the agreement that the victor would be the one watching fireworks with Lady Erna from a boat on the Arbit River. They envisioned the excitement of the competition, not dwelling on the weight of the stakes but relishing in the thrill. The reward for the winner would be a townhouse in the city's heart. Turning to Bjorn, they asked if he'd like to join. Initially silent, Bjorn's eventual agreement intrigued by the prospect of this betting game, momentarily quelling his friend's disappointment, expecting the king of bets to participate. Bjorn is roused from his thoughts by Erna's call, and he greets her warmly. Curious, Erna asks about the commotion. Amid their conversation, onlookers whisper, observing their interaction. Bjorn informs Erna that she left her handkerchief on a nearby bench. Their eyes meet, and Erna is surprised, realizing her oversight. She expresses gratitude to him. On the other hand, Gladys visibly reacts to their conversation, her eyes betraying her shock. Amidst the unfolding situation, Erna feels a sense of dizziness and uncertainty. Bjorn, sporting a smile, then asks her if she'd grant him the privilege of admiring the paintings together. The scene leaves everyone astonished, including Erna herself, who appears as bewildered as a startled fawn. Meanwhile, Bjorn exudes confidence, his smile like a wolf with an evil plan. Bjorn gently takes Erna's hands and encourages her to proceed. Their friends, having witnessed Bjorn's initial reluctance to engage in the bet, are surprised by this bold move. It seems he has had a change of heart. Meanwhile, in another setting, the king and queen engage in conversation. The king expresses curiosity about the stunning lady with Bjorn. Louise, Bjorn's sister, informs the king that the lady is Erna Hardy, Viscount Hardy's daughter, the same woman who had attracted attention at the royal ball, while accompanied by Bjorn. Leonid, Bjorn's younger brother, is taken aback, unable to comprehend his brother's intentions. Louise is also surprised to hear about Erna's handkerchief left on the bench, interpreting it as an age-old tactic to pique a man's interest. They are puzzled as to why Bjorn would fall for such an obvious and base scheme. The queen advises her daughter to cease fretting, fearing that their conversation might be overheard. Louise felt upset because nobody in her family would listen to her when she tried to speak. The queen told the king they should investigate the woman who had caught Bjorn's attention. Erna and Bjorn were spending time together when Erna suggested that Bjorn leave first. This confused Bjorn, who wanted to explore the paintings together. Erna explained that she felt she had already done her part and showed her annoyance with Bjorn. Bjorn saw some women watching them and encouraged Erna to stay where they were. This made Erna even more frustrated, and she asked him what he was doing. But Bjorn ignored her objections, gently holding her shoulder and telling her to stay still. He reminded her that if she chose to play a part, she needed to commit to it. Onlookers whispered about them, and Erna felt her annoyance growing. Erna pouted in a charming way, catching the prince's attention. He asked if she was mad, and she replied that it wasn't exactly anger. The prince persisted, suggesting she seemed upset with him. Erna reassured him that wasn't the case. She admitted she had caused trouble for him at the royal ball, and saw this moment as a way to make up for it. Bjorn's smile faded, and he asked about her mistake and the notion of making amends. And with that, I conclude part 3 of this story about our girl Erna and our boy Bjorn. What will happen next? When will Erna's childhood friend Pavel Lore meet her? And what are Princess Gladys's true motives? Lastly, will Erna and Bjorn build a relationship slowly? Stay tuned for part 4 of this story. Thank you for watching, and as always, it's our destiny to discover new manhwa. Thank you for watching.